The Trojan Horse of an Empire. Erdoğan and the Silent Conquest of Turkey ****. Epigraphs. It is not necessary for a prince to possess all virtues, but it is necessary to appear to possess them. Niccolò Machiavelli. The darkest places in hell are reserved for those who maintain their neutrality in times of moral crisis. Dante Alighieri. Control oil and you control nations. Control food and you control people. Control money and you control the world. Henry Kissinger. Introduction. The Architecture of Hidden Conquest. In the previous chapters of The Prince, the pyramid of power and the families that rule the earth, we traced the invisible mechanics of sovereignty, the creation of money, the ownership of central banks, the use of propaganda, and the role of elite families who function as planetary overseers. We exposed how states are puppets and how leaders are installed, guided, or removed depending on their utility to the pyramid. This chapter continues that exploration by turning to a case study, one of the greatest illusions of the 21st century, the supposed conflict between Turkey and Israel, and the role of Recep Tayyip Erdoğan as the chosen conduit of Turkey's internal disintegration. To understand power, one must understand deception. To understand deception, one must understand Erdoğan. The stagecraft of hostility, an ancient trick of princes. Machiavelli taught that a wise ruler must learn to appear virtuous without being constrained by virtue. Erdoğan mastered this advice, but not for the service of Turkey. Instead, he performed hostility toward Israel as a calculated drama, while maintaining hidden cooperation with Israel's deep state. History provides the evidence. In 1949, Turkey became the first Muslim-majority nation to recognize Israel. Throughout the Cold War, MIT, Mossad cooperation was among the closest in the region. Between 1996 and 2010, Turkish F-4 pilots trained in Israeli airspace and vice versa. Even after the 2010 Mavi-Marmara crisis, bilateral trade increased every year. When Erdoğan shouted at Shimon Peres in Davos, "1 minute," analysts in the West immediately recognized it as political theater. It was a moment worthy of the Commedia dell'arte, and even Dante would have placed it among the scenes in Inferno, a place where rulers strike heroic poses while serving the very forces they pretend to oppose. The Turkish public saw fire. The Israelis saw performance. The cabal saw obedience. Thus the prince must understand. The loudest enemies are often the most loyal servants. 2. The Sabbatean elite. Turkey's hidden continuity of power. In Chapter 4, we explored how elite families survive revolutions, coups, and regime changes. Turkey is no exception. The Sabbatean Sabbatesi families, descendants of the followers of Sabbatai Zevi, formed an invisible merchant aristocracy that shaped Turkey's industrial base from the late Ottoman era to the present. Historically, they dominated banking, media, shipping, textiles, and energy. They acted as a stabilizing bridge between Ankara and Tel Aviv. They survived the Young Turk era, the early republic, multiple coups, and AKP rule. They maintained direct channels with Western intelligence and Israeli networks. Their function mirrors that of the Medici in Renaissance Italy, to control the economic bloodstream, regardless of which puppet sits on the throne. Turkey's real relationship with Israel was never in the speeches of politicians. It lived in the boardrooms of these families. And it was these families who understood that Erdoğan, proud, corruptible, and theatrically gifted, was the perfect instrument for long-term destabilization. 3. Greece, Cyprus, and the silent expansion of Greater Israel. The prince must learn to see maps as instruments of prophecy. The Eastern Mediterranean is one such map, redrawn quietly by energy politics, military realignments, and intelligence partnerships. The modern Israeli, Greek, Cypriot axis is not an improvisation. It echoes ancient alliances, revived by necessity. New gas discoveries in the Levant Basin. The EastMed pipeline calculations. The declining trust in Turkey as a reliable partner. NATO's internal fractures. Turkey's internal deinstitutionalization under Erdoğan. This aligns neatly with the Greater Israel Project, which itself echoes Kissinger's 1970s doctrine of fragmenting the Middle East into microstates incapable of defiance. What Syria and Iraq endured through war, Turkey now experiences through corrosion and political rot. This is why Israel invested diplomatically and militarily in Greece. This is why Cyprus became a forward outpost. This is why Turkey, once a pillar, is being turned into a vacuum. Erdoğan did not cause this realignment. He made it possible. 4. Erdoğan the Trojan Horse, an agent of internal collapse. History teaches that empires rarely fall to external enemies. They fall to internal decay. Erdoğan's rise must be analyzed through this lens. His utility to the hidden sovereigns lies not in loyalty, but in predictability. He would always choose personal power over national strength. His actions confirm this. 1. He destroyed the institutions that protect a nation. The independent judiciary was purged. The military command was decapitated. The civil service was replaced by loyalists. Universities became ideological echo chambers. The central bank became a political toy. Regulatory bodies were abolished or corrupted. No external enemy could have inflicted such damage. 2. He surrendered economic sovereignty. Under Erdoğan, Turkey experienced the largest foreign debt accumulation in its history, dependency on Gulf capital, vulnerability to London, New York financial networks, privatization of strategic sectors to foreign hands, depletion of national reserves. This mirrors the Ottoman bankruptcy of 1875, which led to the creation of the Ottoman Public Debt Administration, effectively placing the empire under foreign control. History repeats not because it must, but because princes refused to study it. 3. He weaponized religion as a tool of control. By projecting himself as the Muslim defender of Gaza, while maintaining full economic and intelligence cooperation with Israel, Erdoğan followed Machiavelli's rule perfectly. A prince must appear religious, even if he is not. And the masses, like the Florentine crowds of Dante's time, believed what they needed to believe. 4. He fragmented the nation from within. Erdoğan divided. Secular versus religious. Turkish versus Kurdish. Rich versus poor. East versus West. Educated versus indoctrinated. A divided nation is easier to manage, easier to infiltrate, and easier to reshape. Thus Erdoğan became the Trojan horse, rolled into the heart of the republic by the very people he would eventually betray. Turkey's coming Balkanization, the modern Sevres. What was attempted through the Treaty of Sèvres in 1920, the plan to carve Turkey into fragments, is now being reattempted through softer instruments. Economic failure, institutional collapse, intelligence penetration, external alliances bypassing Turkey, Kurdish regional autonomy pressures, demographic instability, elite corruption. What foreign invaders failed to accomplish with armies, Erdoğan achieved with speeches. This is the genius of the silent conquest. The gates were opened from within, not forced from outside. Conclusion. A prince must recognize the Trojan horse before it is too late. Dante described hell as a place of self-deception. Machiavelli described politics as a stage. Kissinger described strategy as a manipulation of nations through money and energy. Erdoğan is the synthesis of all three. Turkey's tragedy is not merely that its leader betrayed it. Its tragedy is that the betrayal was disguised as heroism, framed as piety, and sanctified by illusion. A prince writing in this age must learn the key lesson. Empires fall when they mistake theater for strategy, rhetoric for sovereignty, and charisma for legitimacy. Turkey mistook Erdoğan for a lion. In truth, he was the horse. And once a Trojan horse enters the city, the ending is already written.